Yes, it's time for campus craziness. The University of Minnesota has a student group with one rule: no white people, period. On its website, the group Tongues Untied touted itself as a safe space targeted exclusively at LGBTQIA and or same gender-loving people of color. For those of you who speak English instead of progressive, that means the group is for non-white gay and transgender people and no one else. Since the story broke, the group has updated its webpage to remove its warning that whites should stay away. But Mike Mullen wrote about the controversy for City Pages, and his take was that white people should shut up and stop whining. Mike Mullen joins us. For coming on, Mike. You basically think this is the white guys, the alt-right white, as you call them, at campus reform making a fuss about nothing.
Right. I would say that this doesn't really bother me, and I'm surprised that it bothers them. If you saw the original message on the website, it said to allies of this group, they would ask that you please give them some privacy to have their meeting alone. I don't think that the people at Campus Reform or the people who have acted like they're outraged at this are actually the allies that they're referring to.
You described the fellow at Campus Reform who brought this up, Mitchell Gunter. You said he's a notably white man from South Carolina. What do you mean by a notably white man?
I meant a joke.
Yeah. What's the joke there? I mean, you seem notably white to me. Is that a joke? You're a notably white man from Minnesota.
Right, and I'm not outraged that I'm not allowed to go to a group for black and queer gay people. That doesn't hurt me. The fact that
But just to go on with this compartmentalization, this is for LGBTQIA people of color and LGBTQIA indigenous people. I always lose it after the Q. What do the I and A stand for in that?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I assume it's indigenous and something. I don't know.
Wrong. It's intersex and asexual. So I just wanted to ask you here, why do you think that an indigenous trans woman has more in common with an African-American asexual than with a white trans woman? Because that's what this group is saying.
No, they're saying that think they have more in common and want to get in a room with each other and have a conversation about, I guess, their race or their sexuality. They would be allowed to do that.
No, they've actually formed. You couldn't, for example, form a group for notably white people, such as yourself and the fella from South Carolina, Mitchell Gunter, and you have a group for notably white people who are notably heterosexual. But you can have a group that says a white trans woman is excluded from this group, but an African-American asexual can be a member of the group. You happy with this? Because this is like Mad Libs, where you just toss the identity group confetti in the air and it all comes down and you piece it together any which way, except that if you belong to certain core identities, you're excluded. You think this makes any sense for trans people or asexual people or intersex people?
What I would point out is that whenever there's outrage about these kind of groups and their supposed segregation or discrimination, it's never actually coming from that trans white woman. She probably understands why they would want to be alone. It's coming from people like you, I guess, who they're asking to leave them alone. Yeah,
and the criticism of people like me, who are notably white, is coming from other notably white people like you. Don't you think that's what's weird, too? That there's like agonized notably white progressive liberals like you getting upset about notably white... by the way, why do you call campus reform alt-right whites? What's that mean?
It means that if you look at their coverage, mostly what they do is they look for things like this where they can act outraged about the fact that that it's actually white, straight people, usually men, who are the ones who are truly being discriminated against, which is, to me, I guess, falls short.
We're talking here about why white transgender women can't go, or why intersex women can't, or men, or both, can't go to this group.
Do you have a lot of them contacting you and saying that they're outraged that this
No, I'm not actually
group of people of
persuaded.
color
I'm not
is...
actually persuaded that that intersex. I'm not actually persuaded that indigenous intersex persons are a measurable demographic. I'm asking you, as a notably white person yourself, don't you think this multiplicity of identity group balkanization, splitting into ever more micro and in fact barely detectable groups, isn't quite absurd?
No, I don't think it's absurd. I mean, you're right. This is a very small group. As far as I can tell, there are maybe 10 people in it. And the fact that it exists doesn't bother me, and I didn't even know it existed until a couple weeks ago when people who had never heard of it before also became outraged by it. Its existence has not done anything to them or to you.
What do you think of Martin Luther King, who thought that one day we could be judged on the content of our character rather than the color of our skin? Now we've ended up with a world in which the color of your skin apparently trumps whether you're a transgender person or whether you're a lesbian, because the fact that the color of lesbian you are is more important.
I think Martin Luther King is great, and I assume if he tried to go to one of these meetings, they would let him in.
I don't think so. Unless he's an African-American asexual. And again, we don't know that. Thank you very much. That's the notably white Mike Mullen. Thanks for coming on the show, Mike. For speaking to us from Minnesota, we'll let you know. And speaking of safe spaces for